So I saved the worst for last. Let's turn our attention to this shitbag of a human, Kevin Bulau of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You see, Bulau was a former teacher. And a plot twist straight out of a bad Lifetime movie. The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office nabbed a teacher from Venice High School for some very inappropriate extracurricular activities. Meet Jacob Riddick, a 23-year-old who apparently thought teaching wasn't challenging enough without adding a scandal to his resume. Jacob, who clearly didn't get the memo about keeping, work and personal life separate, got himself arrested on Tuesday. Detectives pieced together the puzzle after an anonymous email spilled the beans of his digital dalliances with a student. Pro tip, Jacob, when you're the adult in the room, maybe avoid sketchy social media chat groups involving your students. Actually, maybe just don't involve yourself in those things altogether when you're an educator. Ugh. The email sent to Venice High School principal laid out a series of messages that traced right back to Riddick and his underage friend. Not exactly the kind of correspondences you want making the rounds, especially when your employer is on the CC list. After getting the 411 from the school's administrations, detectives immediately swooped in, and before you could say inappropriate conduct, Riddick found himself slapped with not one, not two, but three felony counts. That's right, two for soliciting slash engaging in sexual conduct with a student, and one for a romantic relationship. It seems, Jacob, you don't understand how overtime works. You're not supposed to work that overtime on your students. You're supposed to work it for your students. Nevertheless, Jacob quickly turned in his resignation on the 25th of June, but the story doesn't end there. With a bond set at a cool $75,000 per charge, this fallen educator now has a bit more time on his plate than grading papers. And hopefully his next role is going to be that of inmate number.
Boom. He's in jail.
So I saved the worst for last. Let's turn our attention to this shitbag of a human, Kevin Bulau of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. You see, Bulau was a former teacher at a elementary school named Holy Apostles School in New Berlin, and later became a teacher at St. Mathis Parish School in Milwaukee. And he has more than just a bad teaching record. He was recently convicted of sexually assaulting a fourth grade student during a tutoring session sometime between 2010 and 2012, but it doesn't stop there. Bulau apparently couldn't keep his hands to himself during other tutoring sessions, too. The brave victim even tried to move her chair away from him, but he couldn't just take the hint. Prosecutors were able to track down other victims and build a very solid case against Bulau, who conveniently left one school in 2012 and started working at another one the next year. I mean, talking about switching up your game plan. Ugh. But karma caught up with Bulau when he was convicted in 2023 for touching two students while teaching fourth grade again. Fourth grade. Fourth fucking grade at Holy Apostles in New Berlin. He got slapped with just 6.5 years of a prison sentence. And of course, he has to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life. But Baruch Hashem, thank the good Lord. Thank the good Lord. Karma really just caught up with his ass because he faced another trial and eventually got sentenced to 20 years in prison in early 2024. Oh, and that makes me so happy. While this may have brought some justice to the victims, though, it really does shed a light on how damaging Bulow's actions were to that school community, to the victims who were young children. They were fourth graders. I mean, this they're still growing. And one victim described feeling like her life was put on hold for 6 years during the court proceedings, saying it was like being on a blindfolded roller coaster. And as if mental health wasn't already an issue, finding out that there were other victims only made her feel worse. As she bravely stood before the judge, she declared that this assault had torn her to pieces.
You're a monster!
Let's hope Blau gets real acquainted with all sorts of educational programs behind bars. Catch my drift.
Oh, great adventure, buddy. Rick and Morty go to giant prison. You know, if somebody drops the soap, it's gonna land on our heads and crush our spines, Morty. You know, it'll be really easy to rape us after that.
All right. So let's take a second to analyze and unpack all of what we just heard. So there are some common themes here. First and foremost, the abuse of authority and of trust. I mean, we put a lot of trust in the educators and the people that children are around for roughly 8 hours of their day, 5 days out of the week. It's, it's it's food for thought. I don't know how to particularly solve that one other than better background checks, better resources for the school systems to actually be able to do these things, better pay so that, people who are already working these jobs and are trustworthy are wanting to stay in these jobs, so on and so forth. But I'm not a policy expert. I'm just a contrarian with a camera. Another thing is the gender dynamics that are there. I mean, for these cases that I pulled, I gave a 50-50 split of male perpetrators and female perpetrators. And I did that on purpose to point out that we should give just as much attention to female perpetrators as we give to male perpetrators. And what it's seeming like is, especially with, Paige's case in Florida, we're hopefully going to see this woman get served a lifetime sentence in prison for these disgusting behaviors that she has committed. Because at the end of the day, there's a psychological impact, and it's going to have long-term effects on these victims. The impact on students is devastating. Often it leads to long-term psychological harm, and unfortunately, only about 6% of students who experience such misconduct actually go on to report it. And this underreporting allows many offenders to continue their behaviors unchecked. And despite the severity of the problem, there are significant challenges to addressing it. And non-disclosure agreements often prevent information sharing between districts, and current policies may not be stringent enough to prevent repeat offenses, as we saw in our last case study. Therefore, it's very important for parents and guardians to keep open dialogues with your children and to be aware of their lives in and out of school, as well as on and offline. It is not overbearing for parents to know what their kids are up to. And I am so sorry to parents that society has let us get to a point where we think that that is okay. But I think it is high time we take our country back.
Where has my country gone? Where has my country gone?
It's clear more needs to be done to protect our students. We must push for stronger policies, better reporting mechanisms, and comprehensive support for victims. If you or someone you know is affected by this issue, don't hesitate to reach out for help. If you are a parent, please know there are resources out there for you. I will link as many as I can down in the bio below. If you are a peer who has received information from a fellow peer about sexual misconduct, do not hesitate to reach out to your parents. Do not hesitate to reach out to authorities. And please take advantage of the resources down below. At the end of the day, it is crucial to raise awareness and address these issues head on. Schools have to implement stronger policies and support systems. And again, if you or someone you know is affected, you need to seek help immediately. I'm sorry for such a heavy episode, guys. I promise I will bring back some funny videos next time. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching the video if you made it all the way to the end. Hopefully you did. This was definitely stuff we need to be aware of. Anyways, please like, comment, subscribe, all of those things. It really, really helps the channel. By the way, I have noticed all of the comments on the shorts. I have noticed the new subscribers. I am so freaking grateful for you guys. We're going to build a really, really awesome community, and I look forward to hanging out with you guys more. So that's it. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.